A few months back, I created a list of underrated roller coasters. An underrated roller coaster is one that might be a great attraction, but is usually overlooked by the masses. Well, it turns out I have more roller coasters that I consider underrated that I want to talk about, so I thought this would be the perfect time to shine some light on diamonds in the rough. Merlin's Mayhem, located at Dutch Wonderland, opened in 2018. This family suspended coaster has been completely overlooked since it debuted in 2018. Merlin's Mayhem is located at a smaller family park, Dutch Wonderland, which might be the main reason for the ride's quick dismissal by enthusiasts. Of course, this is unfortunate because of how great this ride actually is. It doesn't compete with the intense inverts by B&M because, as I said already, it's a family coaster. This roller coaster is toned down in intensity, but it still delivers that exposed feeling flying over the treetops. With a simple lap bar, I felt like that I had to hold on to stay in the train, but that's what makes this coaster exciting. You really get to soak in the surroundings because you're not being thrown around at breakneck speeds like on a large B&M model. Now, this coaster isn't all tame either. The helix before the tunnel packs a decent punch, something I wasn't expecting on a family coaster. The theming is quite superb, especially for a smaller park like this. You can tell the park has a lot of pride in this attraction when they put the effort into crafting a nice story to go along with the ride. The next time you find yourself at Hershey Park, why not take some extra time and swing on by Dutch Wonderland for the part of the day? Ride of Steel and Superman Ride of Steel, Six Flags America and Six Flags Darien Lake, both opened between 1999 and 2000. When your new roller coaster opens around the same time as the Millennium Force and Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England, it's no surprise that your roller coaster would get overlooked. Intamin tried something a little different with their Ride of Steel clones. They focus more on speed than airtime. The ride layout works a little better with the first of the two at Six Flags Darien Lake, mostly because of the ride's interaction with the water. But the Six Flags America version still manages to work with what they have by providing a nice journey out into the woods. When ranking all the hypercoasters, some might put these two down near the bottom, which I would slightly disagree with. I can understand that they aren't the best hypercoasters out there, but a weak hyper can still be better than many other roller coasters. These roller coasters still utilize the T-bar restraints, which is a huge plus in my mind. Airtime moments on these coasters are sporadic, but when they show up, they really deliver. Silver Comet, Martin's Fantasy Island, opened in 1999. The only defunct coaster on today's list. Just a few months ago, before the pandemic, Martin's Fantasy Island announced that they would be closing for good. The biggest victim in this tragedy is Silver Comet, the park's wooden coaster by Custom Coasters International, or CCI for short. This short-lived manufacturer built some notable coasters like Boulder Dash, GhostRider, Shivering Timbers, and Boss. Silver Comet might be one of their lesser-known projects, but that's mostly due to the ride's location. Martin's Fantasy Island was a smaller amusement park located in between Buffalo, New York and Niagara Falls. Hopefully this roller coaster gets saved by someone purchasing the ride or the entire park. But unfortunately, I feel like this might be highly unlikely. Now, if the park does happen to eventually reopen, or Silver Comet gets relocated, make sure to check out this fun wooden coaster. Batman the Dark Knight at Six Flags New England opened in 2002. Many of the floorless roller coasters in the United States are big, featuring massive inversions, high speeds, and intense G-forces. Batman the Dark Knight is one of the smaller floorless coasters on the market, which means it's easily overlooked, especially when compared to Dominator, Kraken, Bizarro, and Superman Krypton Coaster. This ride may be smaller, but that doesn't mean it's inferior. Batman still packs a decent punch, including 5 inversions. I know I said this a few times already, but the interlocking corkscrews on Batman the Dark Knight are the best version of this element. Plus, it's smooth, so no headbanging. Ninja at Six Flags Magic Mountain opened in 1988. I recently talked about Ninja in a previous video, but I really felt like it needed more love. Ninja is a suspended roller coaster located at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Built by the famous Aerodynamics, this roller coaster uses the terrain to its full potential. Starting near the top of the mountain, the ride dives and weaves alongside the mountain before coming to the bottom of the hill over by Jetstream. Ninja also interacts well with the scenery. There are plenty of moments when the ride is picking up speed that I felt like I might collide with a tree or something, which actually did happen, but that's a story for another time. Ninja is probably the least discussed suspended coaster by Aero, being overlooked by the more popular Bat at Kings Island and Vortex at Canada's Wonderland. With 19 roller coasters operating at Magic Mountain, the ride can be easily overlooked by some of the bigger attractions. I can understand why many might overlook this attraction, but you'd be missing out on a great ride. Phobia Phear Coaster, located at Lake Compounce, opened in 2016. Some of you might be scratching your head as to why Phobia Phear Coaster is featured on today's list. Well, let me explain. Built by Premier Rides, Phobia is a Skyrocket 2 model, their most popular model out on the market today. With 9 copies of this coaster out in operation, the model is pretty well known. However, for those in the States, many have ridden this coaster at a SeaWorld park like Busch Gardens Williamsburg with Tempesto, arguably the most popular copy of this model, or Tigris at Busch Gardens Tampa, and Electric Eel at SeaWorld San Diego. All of these versions have one thing in common, and that's the comfort collar. The roller coaster is designed to function with only a well-constricting lap bar, but for some reason the SeaWorld chain opted to add the comfort collars to their cloned attractions. It's a simple strap that goes over your shoulders, but takes away from that being exposed feeling as you're slowly rotating upside down 150 feet in the air. Phobia Phear Coaster does not have the comfort collars, so the ride experience is slightly enhanced. Being located at a smaller regional park, Phobia will be easily overlooked by the attractions at Six Flags New England or even Boulder Dash in the same park. During my visit last summer, the park was rather busy, but Phobia Phear Coaster was a station wait all day long, which I thought was rather odd. The line to ride Wildcat, the park's awful classic Woody, had an hour wait, but this Superior coaster seemed to get no love. Invertigo at Kings Island opened in 1999. I've talked about Goliath at Six Flags New England, which is a giant boomerang coaster by Vekoma. Well, Vekoma wasn't done creating different variations of their most successful coaster model, the Boomerang. This time around, it's inverted, but with the same relative height as a traditional sit-down version. The roller coaster also features forward and backward-facing seats, which sounds unique until you realize everyone will travel forward and backwards during the ride, but regardless, it's a neat little feature. The reason why this coaster is in today's video is because of one thing: smoothness. You should all know my disdain for boomerang coasters, but I actually don't mind Invertigo. It's a fun, smooth, intense boomerang coaster that usually has a shorter line. It may not become your favorite coaster at the park. I mean, it's competing against some great coasters, but it will still put a smile on your face. Backlot Stunt Coaster at Kings Island, Kings Dominion, and Canada's Wonderland opened between 2005 and 2006. Premier Rides is featured again, this time with an older generation launch coaster. Backlot Stunt Coaster is a family launch coaster that features some fun theming. Originally called the Italian Job Stunt Track, these 3 cloned coasters were rebranded after the Cedar Fair buyout. The ride starts off with a launch into an upward helix. This is the most intense moment of the ride. Actually, that helix has caused me to gray out every time I've ridden this coaster. It's surprisingly intense when compared to the rest of the ride. The theming is what makes this coaster stand apart. Just like Merlin's Mayhem, being a family coaster causes this attraction to be overlooked. Sure, it's not that big, fast, or uber intense like other launch coasters, but it's all about the experience. Cedar Fair has done a decent job keeping the theming still active, though I have experienced a couple rides when the helicopter part doesn't work as designed, but the rest of the theming is usually on point. Exterminator at Kennywood opened in 1999. Who would have thought that a spinning wild mouse coaster would make it in on today's list? Well, I'm here to throw out some praise for Exterminator. Kennywood took your typical spinning wild mouse, but enhanced it by making it indoors and giving it some quirky theming no less. The ride is themed to a rat escaping a team of exterminators inside the Pittsburgh sewer system. Unlike the Dark Knight coaster at Six Flags Great Adventure, Exterminator is actually pitch black at certain points, which really sells the whole ambience. The ride can also get spinning pretty good. I've gotten some great rides on this roller coaster. When you make your next visit to Kennywood, don't skip Exterminator because it's only a Wild Mouse coaster. That would be a mistake. Mystery Mine at Dollywood. Opened in 2007, probably the most criminally underrated coaster on today's list. Mystery Mine, built by Gerstlauer, combines the best of a dark ride with their successful Eurofighter coaster to make one fantastic roller coaster. The theming is top-notch, ranking it up there amongst the best of the best, outside of a Disney Universal bubble. The biggest complaint against the ride is its pacing. The coaster features very few moments of high speeds and thrills, but focuses more on the theming and building suspense. The ride is broken down into 3 parts. The first part is completely indoors. This is where some of the great theming comes into play. The second part, which many consider to be the worst part of the ride, is where you'd find the bad pacing I mentioned. Personally, I don't have a problem with this part of the ride. I think the smaller compact dives and sharp turns really make this coaster stand out. Plus, it's all just building suspense for the final part of the ride. Mystery Mine ends with a second vertical climb, a beyond vertical drop, and 2 inversions. This is the most intense part of the ride. Talk about going out on a bang. That drop delivers some great airtime. The Heartline roll is very forceful, delivering some powerful laterals that will feel like it's trying to rip you right out of the train. The dive loop has some great hang time as you slowly crest the top of the inversion and start to wonder if you might stall out. Unfortunately, after that, it's the brake run, which if you're not expecting it can be rather painful because of how aggressive the brakes are. Mystery Mine is also known for its lousy over-the-shoulder restraints, which I can give them that one. If this had the newer lap bars on their modern Eurofighters, Mystery Mine would be insane. Regardless, I can overlook the restraints because the rest of the ride makes up for their shortcomings. Mystery Mine may not be the best coaster at Dollywood, but it works well as one of the great coasters in this park's top-notch coaster lineup. Well, that was my second list of underrated roller coasters. If you missed the first video, just check out the link in the video description or click on the link at the end of the video. Do you know of some underrated roller coasters that weren't discussed today? Let me know all about it in the comments below. As always, please subscribe so you don't miss out on more great content coming your way by X Scream Thrills.